We're good to go. So we're going to go ahead and start it. I got 11 Eastern time. I want to say good morning to everyone. My name is Jerry Shockey. I oversee all the youth and educational programs here at the Pro Football Hall of Fame in Canton, Ohio. And we want to welcome you to the next installment of our Heart of the Hall of Famer series featuring Pro Football Hall of Famer, Mr. Joe Greene. And some of you are new to this. Actually, many of you are new to this, and some of you are veterans to the program. But we always like to give an overview of what the whole premise is. And the idea of this program is to convey what it took to get into the Pro Football Hall of Fame beyond just the athletic abilities. We know that folks like Hall of Famer Joe Greene are great examples of athleticism and skill and talent, but it took a lot more than that to get into the Pro Football Hall of Fame. It took the character qualities, many of the character qualities that you guys are studying, those 6 pillars of character: the trustworthiness, respect, responsibility, fairness, caring, citizenship. It took all those pillars and a whole lot more to make it into the Pro Football Hall of Fame. And I have a little secret for you guys, and I don't think it's a big secret here. Those aren't character qualities just to be in a Hall of Fame player. Those are character qualities to be in a Hall of Famer in anything that you choose to do. Whether it's the very best student in the classroom, whether it's the very best sibling at home, whether it's the very best citizen of your town, your community, or a citizen of the United States, those are the character qualities that are going to help you excel in all areas of your life. So we're really excited to have the opportunity to have Mr. Greene speak with you guys here today. And you guys are all, I think, veterans to video conferencing, so you know to keep your microphones muted till we call upon you, and it sounds like you guys have all done that excellently so far. But what I'd like to do before we ask Mr. Greene with his opening remarks, I would like to give an opportunity. I do have to thank a team of folks that helped make this possible. It wouldn't have been possible without them. And first and foremost, we have to thank our friends that are there.
Has joined the conference.
I think we just might have had a Texas school to join in there. So make sure you guys are, whoever just joined in, just make sure you keep your microphones muted. But there's a team of folks that help make this connection possible. Number one, those folks in Texas, the Can Academies, Texas Can Academies, Charles Oliver, Gary Risk, Gabriela Diaz, Jeannie Culver, all those folks that helped make this connection possible. Thank you very much for opening your doors and allowing Mr. Greene to come into your school and utilize your technology and speak with your students here today. So thank you very much. This wouldn't have been possible without you. Thanks to our friends at Untitled Networks. They've been working a lot with us now in this series and getting host sites for us. They're leaders in wireless technology for schools and all kinds of other places. But they helped make this connection possible for us as well. So thank you to our friends there, Dane Felician, who's there, and Jerry Herzog, who's back here in our Canton area, that helped facilitate all this. So thank you very much to Enteresis. As always, eTech Ohio, our state bridge to our State Department of Education. They bridge every one of these Heart of the Hall of Famer connections together. So we always have to thank them, because without them we wouldn't be able to bring in 4, 5, 6, 7 different sites into one connection. We have to thank the teachers, because obviously the teachers are the ones that made the sacrifices. So the teachers, the tech coordinators, all those folks that helped make this connection possible, thank you very much. And last but definitely not least, we have to thank the real stars of the show, and that's you guys, the students. The students, without you, it would not have been possible today to do this program. I've seen the questions you guys have prepared, and looking forward to a great interaction with Mr. Greene here today. But before we ask Mr. Greene for his opening remarks, what I'd like to do is ask the schools, and I'm going to call upon your schools, so A, everyone else can see you, and then B, so Mr. Greene can see you as well. But when I call upon your school, feel free to unmute your microphone at that time and give a shout out. Show some school spirit. As I always say, I apologize to the teachers, especially if you're in a library. I know Gary Cobb is in a library, so I apologize to Ms. Brown there for allowing your students to yell in the library. But we'll give a little shout out here. So first and foremost, we're going to start with the folks that are right there with Mr. Greene. So Mr. Greene, if you can plug your ears just for a second. If the students that are joined in there, Texas Can Academies, if you want to give a shout out, go ahead.
All right.
Hello! We'll come back to them. We'll come back to them in just a second. Let's go to Wisconsin, Pepin School District. Go ahead. Okay. All right. Thank you, Pepin. We appreciate it. We're going to go to Texarkana, Arkansas with our friends at Gary Cobb Middle School. Go ahead. think Gary Cobb's got it so far. So thank you. Go ahead and mute there. We're going to go to New York City. PSMS 206. All right, thank you. Thank you. We appreciate that. Go ahead and mute there. In New York, let's go to Kingwood, Texas, Humble ISD. Humble?
They're very humble.
That's good. I like that. All right, Humble, we'll come back to you. We'll come back to you in just a moment. They were the first ones connected, so I'm assuming they're still connected. Maybe they're just a little bashful or don't know where the unmute button is. Let's go.
We're still here.
Okay, let's give a shout out.
Woo!
Thank you, Humble ISD. Thank you. Go ahead and mute there, and then we'll go to Alvarado, Texas, Alvarado Junior High. Okay, thank you, Alvarado. We appreciate that. And last but definitely not least, even though they're going to be a view-only group today, we would like to give them a chance to at least shout out one time this morning. Reach Junior High in Fort Worth, Texas.
Wait, where's the...
Okay.
Yeah! Thank you very much, and we appreciate everyone keeping their microphones muted until we call upon you. And even after you ask your question, as we rotate through, we will ask you to mute your microphone immediately following the question, just so we can eliminate any background noise. And just a reminder to the students, and you're doing an excellent job in there, that are kind of flanking Mr. Greene. Just a reminder that obviously we have to keep your microphone open the whole time, so we'll need it as silent as possible in there. Even little shifts of paper by the speaker, as you can hear now, by the microphone, it'll pick it up. Those microphones are very sensitive. So haven't heard anything yet, but just making sure that we all know that. So with that being said, let me get to the introduction of our featured speaker, and that's Pro Football Hall of Famer, Mr. Joe Greene. And let me recognize him both for his on-the-field achievements as well as his off-the-field. First of all, he was a consensus All-America back in 1968. He was a #1 draft pick in the 1969 NFL Draft. He became a cornerstone of a franchise that, as many of you might know, dominated the 1970s. I know that was before all of our students' day and time, but you probably still see the highlight films about those great 70s Steelers team. He was an exceptional team leader. He possessed size, speed, strength, quickness, and determination. He was NFL Defensive Player twice in 1972 and 1974. He was All-Pro or All-AFC 9 years, played in 4 Super Bowls, won 4 Super Bowls, 6 AFC title games, and 10 Pro Bowls. Now, although officially the Steelers do not retire jersey numbers, Mr. Greene's number 75 has not been issued since his retirement and is understood to be, we'll put quotation marks there, unofficially retired. Off the field, he's gone on to an amazing career off the field, involved with a number of different things. But after retiring, he first started out, he spent 1 year as a color analyst for CBS's NFL coverage before becoming an assistant coach under Steelers legendary head coach Chuck Noll in 1987. He spent the next 16 years as an assistant coach with the Pittsburgh Steelers, the Miami Dolphins, and the Arizona Cardinals. In 2004, he retired from coaching and was named the special assistant for player personnel for the Steelers. Some of you saw the draft this weekend. Some of you might saw that the Steelers had one of the better drafts according to the so-called experts. Mr. Greene is obviously involved in that process. In this position, he earned his 5th Super Bowl ring after the Steelers won Super Bowl 40, and a 6th after the Steelers won Super Bowl 43. Mr. Greene is one of 4 people outside of the Rooney family to have Super Bowl rings from the first 6 championship teams. So, as you can hear from that, involved in a number of things on and off the field, successful in a number of things on and off the field. Obviously, one of the crowning achievements in his life would have been, obviously, when he was enshrined into the Pro Football Hall of Fame, at least as a player, I should say, was when he was enshrined as a player here at the Pro Football Hall of Fame. The highest
has left the conference.
The highest any individual player can receive inside the NFL is being enshrined in the Pro Football Hall of Fame. So with that being said, what I'd like to do is, if everyone can unmute your mics for a second and join me and give a warm round of applause and a welcome to Pro Football Hall of Famer, Mr. Joe Greene. And Mr. Greene, the microphone is open for you for your opening remarks.
Well, thank you, Jerry, and
thanks to all of you for being here, and I'd also like to thank the teachers. I know it's a monumental task, but also an enjoyable task to be in the position that you're in to monitor young people's lives and to help them on their way. In my experience as a civilian, not on the football field, but on the football field, I found that over my lifetime, experience has been the best teacher. And number one, number two would be someone that has experienced those things, usually someone older than you, to relay those experiences to you. Now, I go back to when I was a kid, a very rambunctious kid. I'm talking about 8, 9, 10 years old. I used to do what kids do. And I got into trouble, and I would tell my mother one thing when it actually was another thing that I did. And I started getting whippings because I would tell her lies about what I was doing, and I'd forget the lie that I told, which resulted in a whipping. And what happened during that time, I said, well, maybe I should just tell the truth because I could always remember the truth. And from that point on, I never got any more whippings again. But I also learned that in my experiences is that the number one thing that I've done in my life, I think, is have respect for myself and my family and for the job that I was given. And if I had respect for myself, I would also have respect for everyone else in my life. That wasn't always the case. I'm not perfect, but that was my challenge, was to give respect and be respected. And it's not something that you force, but it's something that you do. You give respect, therefore you have respect. You can't demand it. It's just something that you do. And I found that over the times that, especially when I was in positions where you're now in the classroom, that the number one inhibitor, the number one roadblock for advancement, achievement, of gaining knowledge was fear. Fear of not knowing, fear of someone laughing at you, whatever it was. And over time, I found out that the questions that I didn't ask in school, 4 or 5 other kids wanted to know the same thing, but we were all anchored in that fear. When I first started playing football, I went out because all of my friends went out to play. Did I want to be out there? No, because it was hot. I was playing against guys that were going to hit me, and I didn't like that. So it was fear. And once I got over that fear in the classroom, on the football field, I gave myself a chance to achieve. And boys and girls, ladies and gentlemen, I think that's the number one issue in our lives. When you, even at this point in time, when you have gotten over some fear, big or small, you're able to get through that wall, that barricade, that inhibitor to go on and do and achieve what you wanted to achieve. So that's what I want to tell you right now, is to deal with your fears and conquer your fears, to open up the world to you. Don't be afraid. An example for me is when I became captain of my football team in high school. Then we have what we call a pep rally. You all are familiar with that. So what they would do was that the captain would speak before the student body. And because I was afraid and embarrassed to speak in front of a lot of people, I didn't do it. I let someone else speak for me. And now looking back over all of that time, I was able to conquer that fear just by, okay, I'm gonna do it. So what I've done, I don't know if you guys remember a Coca-Cola commercial. I did that some years ago, and I was speaking in front of people, in front of the camera, and the commercial won a lot of awards. But this is from a kid that was afraid to talk in front of people. How did I get over that fear? Was just taking it one step at a time. One step at a time. And don't be afraid to be embarrassed. Don't be afraid. That's what I want to share with you guys today, is just conquer your fears, have respect for yourself, have respect for your friends and your family and the world around you. And that takes care of a myriad of things. When I say respect, that takes care of basically my character, my trustworthiness, my honesty, my fairness. All the time I'm not fair. I say that I am. And when no one is watching, how am I? What do I think? And through all of this process, I must tell you that you need help. And the help comes from above. You have to pray. You have to pray and have faith. That's what I want to share with you guys today. Overcome your fears. Okay?
Okay. Thank you, Mr. Greene. We appreciate your opening remarks. And students, just to let you know, you can see me already jotting down notes. I mean, I've done this with 40-plus Hall of Famers now, and trust me, I hope you guys are taking notes of life lessons you can learn from Mr. Greene. Trust me, I'm only 35 years old. There are life lessons that I can learn as well. Learning doesn't just take place in the classroom. It takes place everywhere. So hopefully you're taking notes. I'm taking notes because there are things that I like to take back and try to apply to my life as well. But the way we're going to do things here today is we're going to work in the order of Texas Can Academies, Pepin, Gary Cobb, PSMS 206, Humble ISD, and then Alvarado, Texas. We're going to go in that order. We'll go one question from each group, and we'll rotate as many times we can through over the course of the next, looks like about 40 minutes or so. And we'll go from there. Just a reminder, again, keep your microphones muted throughout. And the students that are there with Mr. Greene, I was here, and you just got to be careful you don't recognize this, but chairs shifting and squeaking, anything like that, it does pick up through the microphone. Not enough to be too distracting, but nonetheless, there's still noise in the background as well. So don't move. Just sit there like this. Okay, laugh. Thank you. That was a joke. You don't have to be that still. But, so we're going to start off with the folks right there with Mr. Greene. If you have the first question of the program, go ahead.
There are some issues centering on the number of concussions a football athlete receives during his career. Have you had any concussions, and if so, how did they affect your past and your present?
The question is about concussions over my career, and if so, how have they affected me? I'm sure I've had some, but I never was carried off the football field. I never got on the sideline where I couldn't. Let me take that back. I did. I was in the Super Bowl, and we were playing the Dallas Cowboys, and there was a guard that hit me in the chin. I saw him at the last minute, and he hit me in the chin, and I think I played a quarter and didn't remember anything. So, but now I never felt that I had a concussion. And I think that my life is good right now, and I know my name, I know my grandkids, I have 7, I can call their names and their birthdays, I know mine. So today I'm fine. I don't know what's going to happen tomorrow, and I should be concerned about it, and I am, but I'm not one of those guys that's going to jump on a lawsuit to sue the National Football League because of what might happen. If I had to go back and play football and play 13 years, knowing what I know now and what the ramifications of concussions, I would still do it. And I challenge anybody that they would probably still do it too.
Okay, thank you very much, Texas. Let's go to Wisconsin. Pepin School District, go ahead with your question.
What advice can you give to young people about developing their character?
Well, the advice that I could give young people about developing their character, again, I talked about earlier, and you weren't here, but I think respect. Respect for yourself and respect for people around you, your family, your friends, property, everything. I think with that, you develop your character and you develop consistency, not being on again, off again, but that establishes a pattern. And if I walk around trying to establish my characters, I think it's kind of difficult myself. When you talk about respect, I think that's all encompassing, and I think that incorporates developing good character.
Okay, thank you very much, Pepin. Great question there as well. Let's go to Arkansas, to Gary Cobb.
If you could relive your career or your life, would you? If so, how?
Could you ask that question again?
Okay, if you could like relive your life, maybe change your career, or what would you do? If so, how would you do that? What would you relive or change?
Well, at this point in time, I think I was blessed with having the body to play football. I was blessed with having a good family. I wouldn't change anything. I've been blessed in my life to been married for 45 years. I met my wife at North Texas, and we have 3 kids. They're all adults, and 7 grandkids. I don't want to change any of that. The good and the bad, I think that makes up the total person. We learn from the good, we learn from the bad, and I have no problems with who Joe Greene is today and how my career as a football player, what I've done on the field and off the field. Maybe going back a few years, I would probably change my interaction with young people. Probably trying to share with some of the things that I've learned in my experience that might be beneficial to them.
Well, that kid in the Coke commercial, Joe, you weren't even going to talk to at first with. So, thank you. Great question there, Cobb. Let's go to New York City. MS 206.
Did you have to do ballet to play football?
You think I'm Lynn Swan, huh? No, that is a good question because in my work now as a scout, we look at one's ability to move around, agility. If a person can dance, move his feet, he probably has a pretty good chance of playing sports. So being a dancer is a good thing for an athlete. And I did not dance, but in my early days, I thought I was a pretty good jumping rope, so I had to move my feet. I was playing with the girls.
And for those you don't know, Joe, you may want to know this as well. Lynn was coming in yesterday for our a program we were doing here, and he actually had to fly out. He had to skip the program at the last second. He flew out from Canton to San Francisco. His mom is having emergency surgery, so I don't know if you stay in touch with Lynn. If you do, you may want to give him a call or whatnot. So because he caught a direct flight, had to skip the program, and caught right to San Francisco. But yeah, I always heard Lynn say. Always heard Lynn say that the dance, the finish of one move is the preparation for the next move, and in many cases that relates to football as well. So, thank you. Great question there in New York. Let's go to Humble ISD in Kingwood. Jennifer, are you there? Humble ISD. Last chance. Okay, we'll go to Alvarado.
Do you think it is important for a leader to experience failure in order to learn, strive for success? Why or why not?
Could you repeat that question, please?
Louder. Do you think it is important for leaders to experience failure in order to learn to strive for success? Why or why not?
That is a very good question. I think anyone that emerges as a leader, they probably experienced some success and they've probably experienced failures. So that in order to lead, that you can understand everyone's experiences, the ones that are having success and the ones that are having failure. So it probably is important. There are two types of leaderships that we talk about in my business. That is vocal leadership and then leadership through action. And as a player, in my experience coaching and as a player, I think I showed leadership by playing and doing what I was supposed to do, doing my job, being trustworthy in doing my job. Now, as a leader off the field, I was very much aware of the people around me, my teammates. And I always spoke to those guys, talked to them, made mention of those young men in my interviews, who was playing well, and if someone wasn't playing well, then I never mentioned that. I would just go over and talk with that person just to let them know that today is today. It has no indication of what tomorrow will be unless you accept what happened to you today. So, yeah, I think it is important that one that puts himself in a leadership position is well-rounded, that he can speak to all the people that he touched. It's a good question.
Great question there, Alvarado. So let's go back to the top. We'll go back to students there with Mr. Greene. If you got the next question, go ahead.
As you know, helmets and knee pads have changed over the years to give players better protection during the game. So my question is, do you think adjustments to the players' equipment have, in a way, helped the protection for the player?
As our game has evolved, equipment has gotten better. If you remember seeing pictures of the black and white pictures, and when it was kind of cloudy and you couldn't see them, and those guys had leather helmets, no face masks. But when I was playing, I didn't play the leather helmet era, but I did play when the face masks were very narrow, and when the shoulder pads were not as big as they were when I played. Equipment has gotten better. The shoes have gotten better. shoulder pads. Shoulder pads are such now that they're made, when contact is made on the top of the pads, they have a band, some kind of band that goes over the top of the pads, and it shifts the weight, the impact to your chest and to your back, which it's supposed to absorb. And then the helmets, they're so heavy, a lot heavier now than they used to be. One of the things that when you first started playing that particular season, early in the season, you had to get accustomed to wearing the pads because they were so heavy. And the helmets, I mean, your neck would be sore for probably about a week. And I don't know what the weight in those helmets are today, but they are very, very heavy. And when I first started, we had what we called suspension. There were ropes that created a basket that prevented your helmet from hitting your head from hitting the outside of the helmet. Now they have, I've seen them where they have air in them. You see them blowing. They pump the air up inside of the helmet. Some had pockets of water, all trying to cushion the blow from the helmet from the head to keep your head from hitting the outside of the helmet, where the most impact is. So there's an ever-increasing pursuit of making the game safer, and it begins with the equipment, and now it is extended into how we play. So the focus is on trying to improve the health of the players, of the participants. So they have improved.
And if all the schools look over my shoulder as the video switches over, if I keep talking, the video switch back to me, you can look at, kind of yesterday and today. These are shoulder pads from the 1920s from a guy by the name of Fred Duke Slater, who was one of the first African Americans to play in the National Football League during the early days. Those are leather shoulder pads, and then these are kind of old school now too. These are from Cortez Kennedy. You guys don't know who that is, but those are his shoulder pads. These are from the 90s, so that's going on,
Has joined the conference.
20 plus years. And then this is Otto Graham. This is from the 50s. I like to call it, I got a 2 and a 5-year-old at home, so I just got done with the onesies. That looks like a onesie there, obviously, and obviously Sam Bradford's jersey from a few years ago, his rookie season. So definitely a difference in equipment over the years. Let's go to Pepin, Wisconsin.
What do you think is the most important thing that's happened in your life?
The most important thing that has happened in my life, getting married and having a family. And then I guess secondly, it was being able to pursue a profession that would provide security for us.
Thank you very much, Pepin. And let's go to Texarkana, Arkansas. Gary Cobb.
What would you say to me today to motivate me?
A question again?
Louder.
What would you say to me today to motivate me?
What would I say today to motivate you? Was be the best you can. And that means giving yourself an opportunity to be the best you can. That means that if you're talking about football and sports, you have to condition yourself, you have to eat properly, you have to train, you have to do all the things preparatory before you get to the opportunity to play. And if you don't do those things, you're not putting yourself in the best position to succeed. So you prepare yourself. That's in everything. You prepare yourself to participate. In the classroom, that means you have
has
to
left the conference.
You have to ask questions. You have to ask questions of your teacher. Why is she there? For you to ask questions and learn. And prepare for the test or whatever is coming up. You just can't show up and be ready to give it your best. So that's what I'm telling you. What we used to say in football is all in. That means that you have prepared yourself completely from the standpoint of working out, doing all the physical things that you need to do, from eating properly, from sleeping properly, being in your playbook, asking questions if you don't really understand. Have to ask to find out, what are you asking me to do? You can't go out and be surprised about what's going on. So you have to prepare. In everything that you do, you have to prepare. And if you don't know, you need to ask. If you don't know, you need to ask. But you don't just show up naked. Do you understand that?
I'll say yes on their behalf. So, and I think that's a great point. Is with preparation. I heard it once said. I think Chris Dolman said not too long ago. He played 20, 25, 30 years of football. From little leagues all the way up, and he never took a day off. And I think students have a dream in many cases of being a pro athlete of some kind. They see the glory element of it on Sundays, but they don't see what pro athletes do on Monday through Saturday to prepare themselves for that game on Sunday. So in many cases, I think if they saw what they put themselves through during the weekdays with the studying and the reps and just the conditioning and all that stuff, they might reconsider at that point. But in any facet of life, to be successful, as Mr. Greene said, it's preparation. I mean, even as small as this broadcast. I mean, it took preparation to make this broadcast. We hope it's successful. We hope it goes without. Watch, the internet's going to go out now that I said this, but we, it takes work, takes preparation, even in all the things that you want to do and be successful at. So thank you very much, Gary Cobb. Let's go to New York City.
Did you have another dream besides football?
Did I have another dream besides football? Yes, before I went to college, I wanted to be an accountant. That was my dream, was to be an accountant. And my first week at North Texas, and when I enrolled with the register, I was told that I couldn't take accounting. I had to take these basic courses. And with that, my dream of being an accountant got deferred, got detoured. And that's something that's a point in one's life that they should always kind of jot down, what would you like to happen? What would you like to do? So when you come to that point in the road, you don't just change without knowing that this is a change in what I really want to do. You have a checkpoint to say that maybe I don't. Maybe I don't. And I didn't at that time. But as far as being an accountant, I'm probably a little disappointed in that, but playing football, I'm not.
Thank you very much, in New York. And just remind the folks in New York there, I think you kept your microphones on. We were getting some background noise, so if you can mute, I believe that was the case. So let's go. We missed them last time. Maybe they're in now. Humble ISD, are you guys connected? If you want to go ahead with the question, we'll give you another shot. Humble ISD. Last chance. You guys are the first ones connected this morning, too. Okay, all right, well, we'll go to Alvarado.
What are some situations or events that took place in your life that you would say had a significant impact on your character?
Oh, outstanding. Outstanding. You make me think a little bit now. When I retired from football, I went into business. I went into the restaurant business. And I had a partner, and I had a bad experience there with being in the restaurant business and the relationship with my partner. And I could have been, should have been, maybe I was angry with him and disappointed. but I was able to get beyond that and forgive whatever I thought he did wrong and become friends again. And that was an important point in my life. And you know, you're supposed to love your neighbor as you love yourself, and that was a critical point for me to be able to do that. Other issues have come up too, but we'll talk about those later. But that was one.
And Mr. Greene, can you share one of the things that seems to come up, and it revolves around what you're sharing as well? One thing that comes up with just about all of our Hall of Famers through this program is the importance of who we surround ourselves with in our lives in order to make us successful. Can you share with us your philosophy on that or your thoughts?
Yes, Jerry. I think that goes back to experience. What have you experienced over the years of growing up, going to college and playing pro sports? What are relationships you've made? It is a determining factor into what is going to happen with you in the years after professional sports, the people that you surround yourself with. And you know, I was fortunate. I had a good friend and a lawyer that was in Pittsburgh that helped me out a lot, helped me in from the standpoint of what to do with the resources that I had acquired up to that point. Basically, I'm talking about money. And also some insight as to what to do going forward, who to associate with. And, you know, I made some mistakes. We call it doing your research, your due diligence with different firms, financial firms, and I did that with two of the largest brokerage houses in the country, and neither one of those episodes ended up being positive in my favor. So from that point on, I learned to do things myself by obviously trial and error, and at this point it's been favorable, more trial than error, thankfully. But it's always important to surround yourself with someone that you trust. And trust is, you can't build trust with someone you just met today. You have to be with that person. You have to check them out. You have to know what they've done in their past. And, you know, we find out that over the years that there's always someone that knocks on your door that wants you to finance their dreams. You understand that? Finance their dreams, because you have the money, they have the dream. What's wrong with that? It's not your dream.
Thank you very much, Mr. Greene. Let's go to back to the students there that you're joined with. If you get the next question. There, Texas Can.
Do you think the pay is more, I guess, now than it was then?
Well, if you're talking about money, for me, no. Because I have.
Can we repeat that question?
He asked me if the money was more significant today than it was when I played. I think he said money. Did you say money? Yeah. Well, yeah, the money is. But the experience, I wouldn't trade it. You know, it's I guess it is humorous. I would say it's humorous, otherwise it'd be heartbreaking. to think that a guy could play one game and make more than I made in the season. That's, I'll say it's humorous, because I don't want to think about the other. Yeah, the money is more significant now, but money is. Well, my head coach, Chuck Noll, he made a point to say you can't make life decisions based on money. And I kind of lived by that. Money was not my pursuit. Anybody that played ball with me during those days would know that my pursuit was to win football games. It wasn't about my next contract. I do not begrudge any of these young men for making all the money that they can make. But I do have a problem with them destroying their football team for trying to make more money. When, you know, what's the difference between 6 million and 8 million, 2 million? $2 million is not enough money for me to leave the team that we're establishing something with to go to a complete strange team. I have issues with this one-upsmanship that these guys have today. One-upsmanship is that I want to be the highest paid player. In a game of sports, the most important thing should be the teamwork, guys working together to win a championship. That's why you're there. Now, you don't play for free. I understand that, because the next guy's getting paid. But you're not trying to be. I think it's a bad direction for the league to be going in. Is having these young men chase them up and no loyalty. That works both ways too. This year, one of the best players on the Baltimore Ravens team was wide receiver. And you work yourself to be the best, but you can't play for them anymore, but you can still play in the league. I don't understand that. That issue is happening with the Pittsburgh Steelers a few times. Why can't you play for us? Why can't we afford you? Is it because you can't play anymore? You have a history of injuries or something? It couldn't be and it shouldn't be about money. In my view, I think that is going to be the ruination of our football game, the National Football League. Money. Good question.
Great question there. Thank you very much. Let's go to Wisconsin. Captain?
When you were younger and joined the NFL, did you ever have the thought of being a legend and ending up with the accomplishments you have today?
No, I can't say one word answer. Absolutely not. It's been a dream. I could not have dreamed of me being in the situation that I've been with the Pittsburgh Steelers. Matter of fact, when I first got drafted as a senior coming out of North Texas, I was the #1 pick for the Steelers, the 4th player chosen that particular year. I did not want to go to the Pittsburgh Steelers. Pittsburgh Steelers had a history of losing, and the year that I was drafted, they won 2 ball games, and the year before they won 2. And the year that I played, my first year we played there, we won 1. And Pittsburgh was the team that, if you look down the schedule and you're trying to decide on wins or losses, well, everybody put a W next to Pittsburgh. But we said at the time, well, we might lose the ball game, but we'll win the fight. That carried on for a while. And then, thanks to an outstanding organization, the Rooney family, and Chuck Noll being the head coach, and the draft team they had together, we collected players, started collecting players, and then we became a good football team. All of us playing together. Through me being a part of a championship football team, and I think being a character guy, good character guy, I was contacted through my attorney to do a commercial, Coca-Cola commercial. And again, that old fear that I was telling you guys about earlier, that came up. Can I do this? Why should I do this? And I said, I can't refuse not to. So I'm gonna be there and I'm gonna do the best that I can. And when I got there on set, I had a director that was very much like the head coach that I had, that could coach me through what they were asking me to do. And they had people around, the extras, the faces that you see on commercials that really don't say anything. They call them adversaries. These people were, a lot of them were professional actors and actresses, and they worked daily on soap operas. And they shared with me, and just be yourself. Be yourself. Be who you are. Don't try to be someone that you're not. And that was probably the single most important information I got, and I went through it and did the best that I could. Took the coaching and took the directing, and when we finished, I had no idea what it was going to be like, and I remember the first airing on TV was doing baseball playoffs, and football season was still going on. And when I walked into the locker room the morning before we went to practice, I got a standing ovation. Everybody in the room gave me a hand and said that was pretty good. Then I knew. Because, a lot of times when we do local stuff, people laugh at you, because sometimes it's a little hokey. But they gave me pats on the back and cheered me, and I felt that at that time that was pretty good. And then it went on to win a Clio, which was the #1 award for commercials for that particular year. Got an award for the commercial and an award for the participants, me and the little kid that was 11 years old. So all of that, the commercials changed me in some areas from being mean Joe to nice Joe Greene. I became a pussycat, to some people. But that was transformation in my life too, and it was a part of it. It was all because I was a football player, and I played football on a good football team that had won championships, and we were in the process of winning another. So no way could I envision any of those things. I thought about playing football, but then I wanted to be a winner, but I couldn't predict winning 4 Super Bowls and being a part of an outstanding commercial that had legs to last over 30 years. No way.
And Mr. Greene, I thought it'd be funny that after that actor gave you that piece of advice to be yourself, you should have tackled him right then and there, right? So let's go to, I think we got time for about 2 or 3 more questions. We've got about 5 minutes left. So we'll go Cobb, MS, and Alvarado to finish out the program. So Cobb, go ahead. Gary Cobb? Okay, let's say it again. Oh, so, go ahead.
What did you know the most about a character before pro football?
Well, what did I learn the most about character before playing pro football? you know, it was an ongoing process. My senior year in high school, my senior class voted me to be class president, and I declined. Again, because of the things I spoke about earlier about some of my fears. That would have been a great responsibility for me to do that, to be class president and to learn all that it entailed being the class president. And again, I think it meant being myself and preparing myself to do the job that was required to do. That was not, in some way, that was a character builder because it was going in the opposite direction that I really wanted to go. And the other time was when as I was speaking to the group here about telling my mom lies about my activities, and when she was whipping on me because I couldn't remember the lies I was telling her, and I decided I better tell the truth because I don't want to get any more of these whippings, so, because I couldn't remember. And another time was when, gee, I didn't think I'd get to this point, but there was a young man that he was about my size, but he was probably about 2-3 years older. And he didn't do well in school, so he was still in the same grade that I was in. And what he would do was when he got bored, he'd find Joe and go beat Joe up. You know, and eventually I kind of got tired of it, but I couldn't do anything about it. I was afraid to. And, but we still were running buddies. So again, when he got bored, he'd say, let me find Joe and beat Joe up. And so once we went out together, we stopped by my house, and my mom had put $5 on top of the TV set for me to pay for my football insurance. The next morning, I looked for it and it wasn't there. And immediately I said, he did it. He did it. And I thought about it all day. You know, my mom I'm from a single parent home. My mother was there. She worked. And anyway, I was really hurt by it. The money and the fact that he stole it from me, it didn't surprise me that, you know, that was what he was. But I was thinking all day about what to do with Speedy. And Speedy had beat me up so many times. And this time, I went over to Speedy's house and told him, I said, I want my $5 back. And he said, what $5? I said, the ones you took off when we were over my house and you took the money off the TV set. He said, oh yeah, I did it. What you gonna do about it? Spontaneously, I started to pummel him. I jumped all over him. Didn't even think about the whipping I was gonna get. But it was what he had done to me and my mom. And, you know, and I ended up, to my surprise, winning the fight. And it doesn't, I got past being afraid of Speedy. And that happened, it just happened to be a physical thing. It doesn't always have to be, but at that point, it was a physical thing for me that I thought I started to build some character in that particular instance, but because you're bigger and larger than most people, you don't have to take advantage of them. And that was a turning point for me, that I didn't have to worry about looking over my shoulder every day, seeing that Speedy was gonna pounce on me. That ended it. So I think that I did develop a little bit of character in all of those events. But again, it was an ongoing thing of developing who are you going to be. And I have to get back to respect. That if I was walking around in fear of a guy beating me up, that wasn't respect for myself. So I got past that. I got another stage in terms of the respect lab. And it also I think it helped me develop some character.
I think we got about a minute or two left, so we'll try to go to one or two more questions if we can. Let's go to New York City. New York City? Okay, well, that makes it easier, I guess. Alvarado, last question. Go ahead.
All right. Did you? Okay, I did it. All right. Did you? Okay, I can do it. All right. Did you ever take on a leadership role as a youth, and if so, what was it?
Did I ever take on a leadership role as a youth? Yes, I think I did. Didn't know I was doing it, but when I was growing up, I probably 12, 13, 14, 15, and older when I had two younger sisters and a younger brother, and my mother would work all the time. And the leadership role that I took then was, taking care of my sisters and making sure the house was clean when my mother got home. That was important to me because she worked hard all day, and she was a maid, and she cleaned other people's houses, and I didn't want her to come home and our house be dirty. So I don't know how my sister's hair looked.
The conference is about to end.
I combed their hair, brushed their hair, and made them look as well as I could. And then I used to clean up the house. Sometimes. Once I got a water hose and hosed down the floors and cleaned them. I don't think my mom liked that too well. But that was the leadership role that I took. Whether I was successful at it or not, I do not know. But I felt it my responsibility to take care of my two sisters and younger brother while my mom was at work, particularly during the summers. It's during the school year. We didn't get home until 3 or 4, and you still had some of those chores that you did, and you didn't want your mom to come home and be disappointed in what you have done that day. So yeah, that was the role that I took on very early, probably again, like I said, 10 to 14, 15 years old. I hadn't thought about that in a long time. Good question.
And unfortunately, we're about out of time, and this is going to end here in just a minute or two. So I want to thank all the students for tuning in here today. But most important, let's give a round of applause to Pro Football Hall of Famer Mr. Joe Greene. Mr. Greene, on behalf of the Hall of Fame, from our executive staff to our Board of Trustees, thank you for taking time out of your busy time and being here with us to connect with the students. Thank you to Interisys, Texas Can Academy, E-Tech Ohio, teachers, students, everyone. Thank you for taking time out today. And this